The doctrine of pious obligation is a legal principle that states that a son, grandson, or great-grandson is responsible for paying off the debts of their father, grandfather, or great-grandfather, respectively. The doctrine applies to debts incurred for legal purposes, and not for immoral or unethical purposes. The doctrine of pious obligation is based on the idea that paying off debts is a pious duty that leads to the salvation of souls. However, the relevance of the doctrine has been questioned due to the Hindu Succession Amendment Act of 2005. This act nullified the doctrine for future debts, but not for debts incurred before 2005. The Hindu Succession Amendment Act of 2005 also granted daughters equal rights to their father's property, which was previously only available to sons. This was a significant development in the legal system, as feminist activists and scholars had been advocating for the elimination of gender-based biases in property and inheritance laws. The doctrine of pious obligation in Hindu law essentially means that a son has a moral and legal duty to repay his father's debts, particularly from ancestral property, even if he did not directly benefit from the debt, as long as the debt was not incurred for illegal or immoral purposes. This stems from the belief that paying off the father's debts is a pious act that benefits the family's spiritual well-being. Examples of how the doctrine of pious obligation might play out. 1. A son inherits ancestral land and uses a portion of it to pay off his deceased father's business loans, even if he was not involved in the business. 2. A grandson is legally obligated to contribute to paying off his grandfather's debts if the family property is jointly held, provided the debts are not considered avyavharika, immoral or illegal. And 3. If a father dies without a will, his sons may be required to use their share of the ancestral property to settle his outstanding debts to creditors. Key points to remember about the doctrine of pious obligation. 1. Religious basis. This doctrine is deeply rooted in Hindu religious beliefs about karma and the importance of family lineage. 2. Limitations. The son's responsibility is generally limited to the extent of his share in the ancestral property and does not apply to debts incurred for illegal or immoral activities. And 3. Modern interpretation. While the doctrine is still recognized in Indian law, courts today tend to consider the specific circumstances of each case and may not enforce it strictly in all situations.